Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Shakshurmiritamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikarye Tararye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So we're continuing our study of Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra has 4 chapters. The first chapter is called Samanvaya, which is the scriptures, the concordance of all scriptures. The second chapter is called Avirodha, which means to defeat all the wrong siddhanta, which disagree with the Janmadi Asyayata principle. The third chapter is called Sadhana, which means the proper method by which to attain liberation. And the fourth chapter is called Phala, fruit, which is mukti or prema, according to the devotees. So the second chapter is not finished yet, and we've seen how Buddhism was defeated. Now the Sutrakara Vedavyas Badarayan is talking about Jainism. So this is not very familiar with us, this Jainism. But let us understand that all that is wrong siddhanta, a wrong philosophy, has been defeated. And we should understand why. Why is it so important to understand, first of all, Sambandha Tattva? The first 2 chapters of Vedanta Sutra is speaking about Sambandha. Then there's Abhideya and Prayojana, which is Prema. But before we reach the goal of Prema Bhakti, we have to make a solid foundation with Sambandha, which is the relationship with God, understanding who God is, what the soul is, what this world is, and relationship between the three. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to defeat all this wrong siddhanta? Because one has to be clear in mind what exactly he is following. It is not to say to others, the Vedavyas is not trying to convince us that we are the best, we have the best philosophy, the best religion. Everybody is saying this. If you want to be a Buddhist, follow the Buddhist path. If you want to be a Hindu, follow the Hindu path. If you want to be a Christian, follow the Bible. But if you want to follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to understand what the Acharya have said in his line. It doesn't mean that all other paths are wrong. They are right for the people who follow them. But if we want to understand our path, we have to have our mind very clear. What is the understanding of Maya Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Krishna Tattva, Rasa Tattva? All of this Tattva has to be really clear. There should be no doubts. And there should be no doubt also what kind of sadhana do I have to do to follow in order to attain Prema Bhakti, Braja Bhakti, Radha Dasyam. It has to be very clear. Otherwise, so many misconceptions will come to our mind. We see nowadays that devotees sometimes they pick up from here, from there, different subject matters which are not about Bhakti, and they think this is Bhakti. Srila Gurudev has warned us that what is Bhakti and what is the semblance of Bhakti. So here Vedavyas is establishing Avirodha. First we have to understand what is all this wrong siddhanta that we keep hearing around ourselves when we preach or when we come across someone who has not come from our line. He has so many different proposals. We have to understand the flaws. And there's a gradation according to the belief. The lowest belief is the belief that everything comes from matter. This is called materialism. That Mother Nature is the only principle and nothing else is real. There's no God, there's no soul, there's no afterlife. This is totally wrong. So Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Karma Mimamsa, they accept the Veda, but they have atheistic or semi-atheistic nature. Like Karma Mimamsa, for example, it's not totally atheistic, but says that gods only help us to get our karma. Everything is based on karma, and gods cannot do anything about it. So the gods, they are not really helpful. They are there, but they're actually controlled by karma themselves. So this is called semi-atheism. They don't believe in a supreme God. Same thing about Sankhya. Sankhya doesn't believe in a God, in a personal and highest God. They say everybody is a Purusha. And the Jain, they also take the same kind of belief. Everyone is a Jiva. But there's no Param Purush. There's no highest Jiva. No. This is only like the belief of the soul, but not the belief in God. And yoga, same thing. It says that there is Ishvara, but this Ishvara is only used as a meditation. But there's no ultimate God that is creating the world and we have to have a relationship with Him. No. And there are materialistic philosophy, which says, like I said, they reject the Veda, they reject the God, they reject the soul. Buddhists are also including into this materialism. And materialism is spread everywhere in the world. Material nature itself is the eternal principle, and the idea is to enjoy life. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you will die. This is what the great Epicurus was saying. I say great because he became the father of hedonism. Hedonism means to enjoy life, to enjoy sense gratification, and to try to dose your gratification. Not eat too much, not eat too little, not drink too much, not drink too little, because if you eat or drink too much, you become sick, and therefore you cannot enjoy anymore. So Epicurus in Greece, then you have Lucretius in Rome, and Charvakamuni in India. You also have other materialistic thinkers in China and other countries. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Saptam Goswami, he actually wrote many things. In his Tattva Siddhanta, for example, in his Tattva Viveka, he wrote about all these different kind of materialists. And in the modern world, you have also the same ideas that are repeated. Like Darwin is speaking about the evolution of species. Everything comes at random, and this is like some kind of evolution. And you have also David Hume, the father of empiricism. He says that everything we see, the only reality is what we perceive by our senses. Everything else doesn't exist. You have those who claim that nature is built up with atoms, like Democritus and Canada, not the country, but the thinker of Vaisheshika. He says everything is a combination of atoms. And in the modern world, Richard Dawkins, the English physician, he wrote a book called The Selfish Gene, how this gene actually encoded in the DNA is responsible for this evolution. They don't even question the evolutionary theory. They think that is the truth. And so he wrote also a book called The God Delusion. The God Delusion meaning that those people who still believe in God, they are actually very foolish, stupid people, because today science has proven that we can live such a better life with all this technology, and we don't need to have a God to explain how everything was created. But foolishness is on himself, because he's going to die like everybody else. Then where will he go? Stephen Hopkins, he also have almost the same kind of name, but he's a different thinker. He's thinking in terms of greatness. You know, Richard Dawkins, he's studying the gene, the atom, the cell, and then Stephen Hopkins, he's studying the universe. In a brief history of time, he's revealing how wonderful the world is. And even though his book conclude with the phrase that if we understood the real beginning of the universe, we will have understood the mind of God, that is the final conclusion. His idea of God is not a personal God, it's just a concept. For him, he's an atheistic thinker. He has proven it many times by saying so. And so they belong, all of them, even though it was way after Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing those materialistic people. They are in the category that he called the selfish materialists. They only think about their own enjoyment, their fame, their money, everything. Okay? But there's also selfless materialists. Those who think of the good of others. They like, for example, one thinker called Jeremy Bentham. He's the father of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is the principle that everything that can be useful for everybody, not just for myself. So the axiom of Jeremy Bentham is the greatest happiness for the greatest number. That is the measure of good and bad. In society, the society is good if it can help the greatest number. And it can also be coined as the greatest good for the greatest number. This is the principle of utilitarianism. Of course, there's going to be a few people who are not going to be, they're not going to profit from this happiness, because the greatest number means not everyone. But this is the idea of politicians today. They want to do the greatest good for the greatest number, and those who are not included in that plan, too bad for them. This is the way. This is the way it works. So we can call this a form of humanism. You know, humanitarian thinker, you want to do good to others, solidarity, but it is still materialist belief. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying selfless or selfish materialism, even though they are different in their framing, in their conclusion, actually the conclusion is always there's no God, there's no soul, and you have to enjoy life as it is. Peter Singer, actually, he's also in this category of Jeremy Bentham, because I forgot to mention Jeremy Bentham. He's also saying you should do good to animals also. Animals also suffer, they also experience different emotion. And Peter Singer, in modern time, he has written many books about the animal rights. And the vegan, they actually know the name Peter Singer, and he's vegan himself, and he's saying that we should not harm the animals also. The greatest good for the greatest number include the animals. So there's some kind of goodness, but it is still materialism. We should understand this clearly. In order that our mind is very fixed, that they are not devotees. They don't have the right conclusion. We can encourage people to do the right thing, to do good things, especially about animal rights, but this is not our fight. This is not our siddhanta. And Buddhists also, they are kind of atheistic materialists, because they believe, there's no happiness in this world, so we want to make everything zero. This is materialistic extinction. But Buddhists are contradicting themselves. For example, in Tibetan Buddhism, the goal of a monk, when he practiced for many, many lifetimes, is to become a bodhisattva. When you become a bodhisattva, you are full of mode of goodness, and you want the greatest good for the greatest number also. And they take a vow: I will take birth again into this world as long as there's one person suffering in this world. So we think, this is a very great person. He is ready to stay forever in this material world, because there's always someone who's going to be suffering, to help him, to free him. But if we think about it, he's also thinking, I don't want to be liberated into this void, shunya, become zero. I'd rather stay in this world, because in this world you meet people, you have some fun. Even if I'm a monk, I'm practicing celibacy, and I'm trying to control myself, still, this life is much better than the void. So I will come back again and again into this world, because actually this void cannot liberate me. This is the right understanding, even though it sounds a little harsh. But to us, we have to understand what is the real siddhanta. God is in control. God is a creator, and the soul comes from God. They come from Mahavishnu. They don't come from Goloka Vrindavan. They come from Mahavishnu. We'll see that later on when we speak about the quality of the soul. So this is the idea of Vedavyas. And we will continue next time on the same subject. Panchakalpa tarubhyacha kripa sindhu vyaivacha patitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.